Alright, so I'm going to quickly show you how you can get external texture packs onto your N64oid. Now, here we go. This is the N64oid here. I've already put the ROM in here, and this one's labeled Super Mario 64, a game that I've beaten on Nintendo 64 and on DS countless times already. Before we get into it, we're going to want to make sure that the engine settings here, the external textures are turned off, and I'll just show you a demo of that later. Now, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the computer to make sure that we put the files into the right location, and then we can do some things on the phone itself. Now that you've seen everything on the phone side, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the files that we put onto the phone are in place. Right here, I'm just using an FTP client so that I can graphically show you where I'm putting these things, but you can do the same kind of thing using a file manager on the Android if you were to put all the files onto an SD card first. Now, what I have set up is that folder that I showed you, ROMs with the Super Mario 64 ROM in it. It doesn't matter if it's V64, N64, Z64, it doesn't really matter. And then here is the folder that has those high resolution textures. Now, to get into that folder here, we want to make sure that we go into the storage SD card 0, so this is the internal memory, and we go to .n64oid. This is the dot is basically signifying that it's going to be a hidden folder for most things, so you're going to want to make sure that you go into that one there. Now, inside there you'll see a bunch of different folders, one of which is high-res texture. This one here is the one that we want to deal with. This is where I've placed the high-resolution texture pack that I downloaded. Super Mario 64 is the title here, and it's got all of the different files that are required for that texture pack. But the naming of this is the crucial part. You want to make sure that this name matches this name here. But it's not simply the file name that we're trying to match, we're trying to match the ROM name. And in order to find out the embedded ROM name, it's a good idea to use a tool for Windows called Tool64. And to show you how that works, we go into Windows here, and it's this program, right here, Tool64. You go to the ROM that you've downloaded, so you would go File, Open, go to the folder that you've downloaded the ROM to, right-click on the ROM, click ROM Properties, and then you'll see ROM name Super Mario 64, all caps, spaces in between. Okay, so that's what we want to make sure that it's named as. We go here, Super Mario 64, spaces, caps, perfect. So everything is named correctly. Once you start having names that are different from one another, then it starts not working, because when N64oid opens up this ROM, it doesn't know exactly which texture pack you're trying to use, because there is no folder associated with that name. So the file name doesn't have to match, but this ROM name has to match. And that's the important part. So now we'll get back onto the phone and see how it runs. Now that all the files are in the right location, we're able to do this really simply. We go to N64oid, and I'll start by doing this just to show you. Super Mario 64. Alright, so now we've booted up into Super Mario 64. Now, this is the standard one. I've got a special launch, a save game rather, here, just to show you quickly how everything will work. Now, take special note of the walls, the text, the ground, things of that nature. Here it's the good old Mario that we're used to. We'll go into the main area here, and we can see the same kind of idea that we've seen all the way back to Nintendo 64 days. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to close this ROM. We're going to go into settings, and since everything is labeled the correct way, going into engine settings and turning on external textures, back out, when we open this ROM, it'll go for that texture pack that we put into the high-res folder that we showed you before. So now when we load it, it'll take a little bit longer to load it initially, just because it's loading that texture pack, but it loads into that textured version of it. So let's go to that same load that I had before. and you'll immediately see some differences. For one, the text is now, the font has changed, the walls are now a lot more textured, the ground actually has a pattern to it, even the icons up here for Mario and for the stars are much more detailed. Now if I quit out of here and I just walk into the area here, we can see that they've changed up a lot of the stuff in here as well. The ground here is all tiled. There's a lot more kind of detail and grunge on the walls. All of the character people have been updated with higher resolution textures. Going into here, we see even blah 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 blah, awesome. Then if we go over here, we can see even grunge on the walls. So that kind of gives you an idea of how they've changed up the textures for this game. Even down to things like Mario himself, you'll notice that he is been textured as well, so he looks a little bit different as well. Specifically, you see in the eyes. So hopefully that'll help you out, and thank you for watching.